Do you think independently? A missionary must use best ideas of others to make decisions. But a missionary cannot wait for others to make up his or her mind. You have to be able to fix things on the spot. If you have these attitudes, well, my church leader doesn't love me, your church leader is trying to make himself feel loved. I can tell you that first year was the most challenging year of my entire life. I did announce people were going on mission teams, and various people emailed me. So I thought, before I do a lesson on can you be a missionary, I thought we'd have some missionaries up here to share what it was actually like to be a missionary. So they're going to share some stories. We're going to have Eric, who was on the original mission team here. Pete, if you come up on stage, Pete, share about some stories. Sean, and then Brandon, who went to Hong Kong and to New Zealand. And then I want you to resubmit whether you still want to be a missionary afterwards. Okay? That's the idea, is like, do you really want to be a missionary? So who wants to go first? Okay. Eric, couple of stories.
Awesome. I want to say first and foremost, being a missionary is a complete honor. But many things that make you grow are the hardest things, you know. And those things I don't regret. But if you ask me, would you want to go through that again? No. Yeah, when Rico left, I gave him a hug and said, hey bro, when you need help, me and Christina are there for you. Not if, but when you need help. Because I know exactly what he's going to do. For two events that I can think of, being a missionary hit me financially and physically. When we first came to Australia, we thought, you know, we had a plan, we're going to go in with $5,000 and we're going to get a job. That $5,000 went very fast. Wow. And we did not find a job for 4 months. You know, it was me, Sean, and Jason, and it got to the point, we put out a GoFundMe twice, actually, just to pay rent, to be honest. It was very difficult. We were working cash-in-hand jobs. My manager was not nice to me. I had to take all this out from him. But we basically were using the very bare minimum of money we had just to pay for rent. And we were paying for just, you know, sausages and bread just for food. We got to the point where me and Sean, every time we had a little bit of change, we would put it on the windowsill. And back in this time, McDonald's sold ice creams for 50 cents. So many of you guys don't know that, but yeah, they actually sold for 50 cents. And that windowsill change was actually mine and Sean's savings just to have a little something nice to eat, which is just a 50-cent ice cream. And it sounds a bit like that's not that much money, but it got to the point where we didn't have that much money, so much so that I actually got in an argument with Sean, saying, hey Sean, like I just can't keep eating these hot dogs, like I need an ice cream. and Sean was standing his ground, he's like, no, Eric, we have to wait a little bit longer, like, you know, we have to wait until a more better opportunity to get this ice cream. And this is just a 50-cent ice cream. It sounds funny, but that's how bad we were struggling, to be honest. Long story short, I got an agency job, and you know, I was so grateful for that. But it did hit us very hard financially, and we didn't know what was going to happen. I would say the second thing was it did affect my body physically when I went to Samoa. I have an extremely fast metabolism, meaning I need to eat a lot. And going to a third world country like that, especially living with a lot of people who want, you know, they don't have food, I would oftentimes give my food to people. And what this did was it actually made me lose a lot of weight. So much so that you can actually basically see my ribs, you can see my bones on my back. The brothers and sisters would constantly say, hey, Eric, you need to eat more, you need to eat more. And I would try, but every time I try, I'd always end up giving my food up to one of the brothers and sisters. You know, I was on that mission field for 2.5 years. And you know, it's crazy, even Frank helped me move a washing machine here. And you know, he asked me, hey Eric, do you work out now? And I told him, no, this is actually what I just look like, you know, when I eat normal. But you know, that was how it was on the mission team in Samoa. Christine knows this. She'd oftentimes try to send me money, and I'd say, no, I don't want money. You know, I want to live as the Samoans do. But those are two things that. Come on.
When you are a missionary, you will struggle with relationships. When I went out there, taking myself to lead the Auckland church, we got to hear about how for 6 months they went sharing every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 12 to 6 p.m. and how all of them were fruitful through that endeavor. And it was awesome. It was amazing. But what really happened is that they became good co-workers and not a great family. So right when we got there was already struggles after 2 weeks of just building friendships. And why? Because it's small things you would have never thought about. This brother was 100% having an argument with another brother because he snored too loud. And there was just these little things that they forgot that they needed to build together. And so 100%, when you go on a mission field, you will struggle with relationships. You'll be tempted to contact the people that you were back here in Sydney or wherever you're going from. But if you don't build the friendships of the places where you're going, you will struggle. And so even when we came here, we all know the notorious meeting where Kip had to separate the brothers from the sisters, and there was this rivalry and this bitterness that we had towards each other. Even though we had the fun Saturdays and everything, we had to fight on the mission field. You will struggle with that. The second thing is when you become a missionary, you don't get to determine where you go. You can't say, I want to be a missionary here. No, when you say, I want to be a missionary, it's just that. You'll go wherever you are called to go. Yeah. So Douglas and Monica were on the mission field only 3 or 4 months in Auckland, and yet they were called to go to Samoa. Yeah. They were struggling for a while, and I got with Douglas many times just praying with him of just like, bro, you're a missionary. It doesn't matter where you go. God is calling you anywhere. He's like, but I just got here. I've been training for Auckland. No, you've been trained to be a missionary no matter where you go. Come on. So if you message Joe, I want to go here. No, you message Joe and you're a missionary and that's it. And you don't get to determine where you go. God will determine that. That's
I had 2 missionary trips. The first was to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong was an awesome experience. But I think the biggest challenge from Hong Kong was, dealing with fruit. And I was there for like nearly a whole year. And I wasn't personally fruitful. And when campus is dry, things are not working, you can really take a toll on your faith. And that was Hong Kong. We had there was a protesting, like that was difficult. But that was for me probably the most difficult, just bearing the faithfulness of not bearing fruit. So went back to Sydney, getting called to New Zealand, and this time I thought I was more prepared. I was like, okay, this time I got this one, right? I had all these visions, these dreams, these goals. I came in, ready. I came to New Zealand, and it totally went south for me. A lot had happened. The COVID lockdown had happened. There was no brother's house, so I was staying by myself, and I was isolated. My personal ministry, I was only working with maybe 3 or 4 in my personal ministry. I was like the only full-time intern on campus. So it'd be long days of sharing on campus by yourself. My campus was very small as well, and less than 10, like 7,000 people. So all these figures and everything, it started to affect my faith again. You get into Bible studies, they don't make it through, and you're looking for help, and you felt like you had no help. So that really took a lot of my faith, and to a point where, the last guy who really gave everything, it was online, didn't come through, and it started to make me question my own doctrine, my own beliefs. It got to a really bad point where I started to doubt, what I actually believed in. So bad it came to a point where, I needed to be sent back to be strengthened in my faith and to protect the disciples around me. Did I ever expect that to ever happen? No. So what you might think coming in is it could be totally different coming out. It's a very sobering moment. I think the big thing that was really tested was my faith, and everything's exposed on the mission field. So that's what I got.
Come on.
I'll share just 2 points in one story. Come on. So before we moved here to Australia, some of you guys remember, we sat down actually with the Paris mission team, some of the Paris mission team disciples. Yeah. And they told us some really good advice that I'm going to tell you guys. They said when you go on a mission team, you will struggle your face off. And so that's really what happened, I think, when we came to Sydney. Yeah. I think the first piece of advice that I'd give is that all your strengths are like kind of put to the side and all your weaknesses come to the surface. You are bare before everybody. And if you're in sin, the church is small, so everybody sees it. If you haven't repented, it's like, oh, Pete hasn't repented yet, So everybody sees it, so you have to be comfortable with just, being open all the time.
Yeah.
For me, it was very difficult because it was, I had been to school and had, different degrees, and I'd always had a job since I was 16, but moving here to Sydney, I didn't have the proper visa, and so getting a job was quite difficult. And so being fired from jobs and being let go and being a casual and all, it was incredibly challenging. So I ended up in a situation where I got an apartment. The only place I could get was in King's Cross. And around that time, I don't know if some of you guys from Sydney remember that time, but it was when the King's Cross Punch was really big. I don't know if you, anyway, lots of partying, lots of, crazy stuff going on in that area. And I just had a really hard time coming home every night to people partying outside my house. And I lived in this little alley. And I was by myself all the time, at night, because all the disciples lived near the campuses, and I was like supposed to start the professionals ministry. It was just very, very difficult. And one of the things I found very challenging was constantly being rejected. Rejected from jobs, rejected during sharing. And the second point I want to share with you guys is like, it's really just you and God. You build great relationships, but like at the end of the day, it's you and God. You get pushed to the point of falling away multiple times, and it's just you and God. And so I think that the only advice I give is it's one of the best things you can do in your life. However, you need to be prepared for it, because you can actually hurt the people around you if you're not spiritually prepared.
Come on.
And that's what I'm saying.
Amen. Well, firstly, I hope you appreciate these people and what they've done in order for you to be a Christian. So the mission fields we're planting are Fiji, and you go, oh, that's a beautiful island. Let me tell you, the Joneses have just arrived in Samoa, and they've already found out there is no such thing as hot water or air conditioning. They're like, no hot water? You may think it's a little thing, but we take these things for granted. So that's Fiji. We've got Singapore, okay, which is the most luxurious place all day, but getting a job, except that'll be difficult. You go Brisbane. Well, who knows if you're going to get choose it? Just because you put your name down doesn't mean you're going. Yeah. So, my title of my lesson is, can you become a missionary?
Come on.
There are a couple of rules. As soon as you sign up for being a missionary, every Saturday you will be evangelizing for 6 hours, 12 till 6, every single Saturday. Without fail. If you can't make that, you can't be on the team. Why? When you go on a mission team, all you do is evangelize. That's all you do. So if you can't do it for 6 hours on a Saturday, you won't do it Monday, Tuesday. You evangelize 5 hours a night off work. That's just what you do. You are there to build a church. Okay, so it's not like, well, I'll just have the same life I have here when I go on a mission field. You know what I'm saying? You need money. You go, well, isn't the church going to money? You understand. It costs about $180,000 to plant a mission team. Once you put flights and visas. We don't have that money this year. I think we've got about $35,000 to plant 3 churches. Okay, so we're going to be looking at you to find what you want, and bro, get a flight. I said, good point, you get a flight. Okay, so you've got to understand that. But a little lesson on, can you become a missionary? Numbers 13:2. Send some men to explore the land of Canaan, which I'm giving to the Israelites. From each ancestral tribe, send one of its leaders. It's amazing here that going into the promised land, 12 leaders went to look at the land. It was fantastic. The dream was there, everything. 10 of them came back and go, I can't do it. Now, they were the best in the kingdom of Israel.
Wow.
Give you some sort of balance of, are we actually going to succeed? Acts 4:13, when they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled ordinary men, they were astonished and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. The other aspect is anybody can do it. You know why Sean and Eric were chosen? Right? They were white and they played sports, so they must be relatable in Australia. I remember the conversation. It was like, who should we take? They're white, they almost look part of Australian if they close their mouths, they play sport, that'll do. But there was no sort of deep theological, okay, Pete and I work together, no, you want to come? Okay, I'll come. That was it. There's no deep theological analysis it's anybody can do it. So there's the two aspects. You know, when Jesus selected disciples and missionaries, he ignored every popular idea of his day and ours of what kind of person should be chosen. Jesus' band of disciples was untrained and without influence, a ragtag and motley group that changed the world. Any campaign for change today would have a star-studded cast of directors and advertisers. You know, when people choose, I think there's the latest sort of choosing of high school students for their AFL and all sorts of, they're looking for the best of the best. In Jesus' group, there was no popular, prominent statesman, top financer. Now, we were lucky. We actually got two really handsome guys. I do remember, I'll tell you some stories. So I remember we were walking through the rocks, and Pete and Eric were walking in front. I don't even remember this. And they were like in their model days, and Pete was like this, doing this, and you know, all the girls were walking past them, and the girls were like, evangelize her, evangelize her. Sometimes you take a few good lookers with you. Sometimes you don't. It's okay. But God is looking for a humbler type of person, unspoiled by the sophistication of his day. No, Jesus chose from the ranks of workers. Why? We're looking for workers. Jesus chose people with little education, but they displayed some sort of flair. He saw in them something nobody else did. And under this skillful hand, they emerged as leaders who would shock the world. You know, Sean's gone on to meet the first person who ever became a Christian. I actually think there was a bunch of you who evangelized Tegan together. Went on to lead New Zealand. Eric was the first person to ever meet somebody on Samoa that became a Christian. No one can ever take that away from him. Ever. Pete went on to, he came and said, we're going to build Bondi 7 years later, or 6 years later. It's like, you built Bondi boat. You did that. I remember I was at the first barbecue we had at Talabajara, what is it? Tamarama, okay. We had these sausages, and there was us, and there was Jade and Marita, and went, this is it. You know, Tegan got baptized there, the first baptism. It was like, this was our first Bible talk down at that barbecue, and that's how dreams grow. Come on, you know, there were hidden talents and fierce loyalty, and they were sharpened on the mission field. You know, natural leadership qualities are important, but too often these skills rely dormant, uncovered. However, if we look carefully, we should be able to take leadership and missionary potential. If we have it, we should train and use it for Christ's work. God takes you and wants to do something great with you. Never resist if God has given you talent and qualities to have an impact, no matter how old you are or how weird you are. Moses was called at 80 years old. So you may go, well, some of you go, I'm 35, I'm too old to go. I mean, you're still super, super young.
Yeah.
Exodus 3:10. Come on, Dad. Says, so now go, I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. The kingdom is full of unusual people leading different things. I'm English, and Australians pretty much don't like English, and I'm leading Australia. Michael Williamson leads London, and he's bald and black and from America. I mean, do I go on? Do you know what I mean? Like, the kingdom is full of just what it shouldn't be. Yeah. Because God leads it and we don't.
Yeah.
You know, Moses tried to resist, and it did not go well for him. Exodus 4:13. But Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord, please send someone else. Then the Lord's anger burned against Moses. There are people that I want to volunteer. There will also be people I will tap on the shoulder, and I will expect you to go. Why? Because when you said Jesus, Lord, you said, I will do anything and go anywhere at any time. Come on. And some of you will be chosen and not. I've actually got the New Zealand first mission team. You were in the picture. Who else was in it? There was a whole lot of people that never went. Was it? Ned, who leads Vietnam now. That's right. There's a whole, like, just because you want to go doesn't mean you will go, and just because you don't want to go doesn't mean you won't go. Come on. Yeah. There are many late bloomers and weird people on mission teams. Moses was very old. I think Nick Bordieri, who leads our whole mercy, was really pulled into the ministry in his 50s. The Sullivans that lead the Sages World Sector, he was in the old movement as a Bible talk leader and did very, very little until he was in his 40s. Age lack of education, none of it matters. What God wants is heart. However, here are a series of questions to ask yourself to investigate your potential as a missionary. Because you are the standard for the whole church. Listen, when we came here, I said you need $5,000 on top of what you'll arrive with. So everybody arrived with $5,000. I said everybody needs to give $100 a week contribution to fuel the church. They go, well, we haven't got a job. I know that. That needs to be the standard. That is the only way that the budget will work. And they went, amen. That was the standard to go. You know, have you ever broken a habit? If you're going to lead and set the standard for others, you must master your appetite. You can't teach people to give up smoking or give up this or change your weaknesses unless you have done it. And why did you change? Was it for God? Do you keep self-controlled when things go wrong? I appreciate Pete. One of the really big things about being a missionary is you evangelize so much, it feels like the world is not open. It's just as open as it was when you don't evangelize. It's you now really feel it. So if you speak to 200 people on a Saturday, and you only get 2 people that say, I'm interested, you feel like the world isn't open. But remember, if you're fruitful just once, if everybody's fruitful just once a year, the world will be converted in our generation. But it's, as Pete was saying, it's that feeling. You know, the missionary who loses control under adversity forfeits respect and influence. See, if you get faithless, then how are you going to study the Bible with people, do discipleship and go, the world is open? A missionary must be calm in crisis and resilient in disappointment. There was a point where Pete lost his job, was living in this household, and we had benevolence, I think, maybe for a month or so. We gave him a little bit of benevolence for a short period of time. And then that was it. He couldn't get a job, and he's got 3 degrees. He worked at the Pentagon. That was Pete before he came on the mission field. And he's washing pots. And he goes, I can't pay the rent. And I was evangelizing down Town Hall, and I met this guy, French Muslim, and he goes, I'm looking for a place to live. And I go, Pete, I've got a guy who's looking for a place to live who can pay rent, but he's not open and he's a Muslim. You okay for him to move in? He goes, all right, that's just what it is to pay the rent. It gets, you know, all this harmonious, I want everything in a nice box and I want this and that. You don't have it. Well, where's the money? There is no money. There's no big church go, oh, that's benevolence. There is no benevolence. Because there is no money. Do you think independently? A missionary must use best ideas of others to make decisions. But a missionary cannot wait for others to make up his or her mind. You have to be able to fix things on the spot. If you have these attitudes, well, my church leader doesn't love me, your church leader is trying to make himself feel loved. I can tell you that first year was the most challenging year of my entire life. I had 2 kids, the teenagers were going through high school to do their things. I had not only my wife, my 2 kids living with me, I had 2 missionaries living with me. It was the most challenging personal year of my life. And not only was I trying to deal with my own emotions, but then everybody on the mission field was looking at me to rescue them. I go, I can't even rescue myself. So you've got to go, it's your problem. Bro, I will pray for you. No, I want you to rescue me. No, I will pray for you because that's all I can do. Can you handle criticism? Can you profit from it? You know, there is a tendency to turn on people on a mission team because everybody's feeling it. And there's an urgency. Bro, you really need to be fired up. You come to one more meeting unfired up. It is unacceptable. Because there's only 12 of us, and that's 1/12 of the church that isn't singing. I'm serious. And you've got to go, you've got to be fired up. We had our inaugural service, and the week before we had no visitors. I remember it. We had this like, let's have a run through, like we're having Christmas carols. And I went, really, Lord? Not a single one? Can you remember? I was like, not one? And then you have all sorts of weird things that happen. Pete was sitting there, and these Chinese visitors would come in and touch his hair. You know, people like, get off my hair, man. And I mean, things get weird. You get tested. They're like, whatever. You know, one guy walk in and go, I'm just here for the girls. I mean, we had some crazy stuff go on. But can you take it all in your stride? You know, a humble person can learn from petty criticism, even malicious criticism. You're like, bro, you didn't say it right. You didn't. Yeah, I need to talk to you for 3 hours because I feel like you didn't say it the right way. You're not missionary material. You're actually not Christian material. If you're worried about everybody saying everything the right way, what happened to turn the other cheek? James 4:10 says, humble yourself before the Lord and he will lift you up. You want to be lifted up and treated right? The only person that you need to worry about treating you right is the Lord.
Come on.
Can you turn disappointment into creative new opportunity? Can you attack failure with faith? Can you embrace disaster with determination? So we were studying the Bible 4 months, we didn't have a single baptism. And I remember we were studying with Tegan and this guy called, who took all our food? Aaron, okay. And we had okay, this is a good story. We don't have a baptism, I cancelled leaders meeting and said, we're just going to go and evangelize. I remember this guy Aaron said, right, absolutely. And I studied with him, my personal fruit, baptizing, great. It's a bit strange. He was lying the whole time. He was a Muslim at home, and when we eventually visited his house, pornography all around his bedroom. 2 months he duped us. My personal fruit. Not exactly inspiring.
Come on.
But that's what happens. You see, Satan will plant things in the mission team, he'll make things go wrong to discourage you.
Yeah.
Because everybody knows that when you fight a war and you arrive on the beach, if they can beat you on the beach, they're beating you. You know, do you really gain cooperation from others and win their respect and confidence? Proverbs 11:14, for lack of guidance a nation falls, but many advisors make a victory sure. You know, there's got to be this unity where you go, we're in it to help one another. It's an us victory. It's not a, well, bro, I think this is right. You know, so much of the ministry is opinionated. What should we call the conference? I'm asking for your opinion. So some of you are going to like it and some of you aren't. But if you then walk around and go, I just don't like it, I don't know if I want to come to the conference because of that name. Really, that's what non-Christians do. Can you exert discipline without making a power play? True spirituality is an internal quality of the Spirit and needs no show of external force. You don't need to force your issue. They use the facts of Scriptures, not force of personality. We had challenges because there were some very strong people on the mission field. And people went, I actually remember, there's a couple of times, now, obviously Karen and I had led churches in England, we'd led 9 churches in England and set up churches, and we set up 4 or 5. I had people sit me down and go, you don't know what you're doing. I go, you've been a Christian 1.5 years. I really wanted to rip their head off. I was like, I remember I was like, do you want me to kill you? I went, oh really? Okay, amen, amen. What should I do? Amen. Because if I'd just taken them on, they'd have been on a plane back to America. So if you are not humble, and you just want to attack everything, you're not missionary material. You know, a leader must be able to reconcile with opponents and make peace where arguments have created hostility. Blessed are the peacemakers. It's challenging. It's funny, even a white Englishman coming to Australia, it's not the same culture. You may be white, you may be the same, you know, it's challenging. You bring people from another culture, you go to another culture, you'd be surprised how shockingly difficult it is. You know, I want to go to Fiji, man. I'm just going to lie on the beach. Yeah, and be eaten by sandflies. Oh, I didn't know they were there. And then the water is dirty. But you understand, you've got to be somebody you go, I don't care, I'm just going to be happy.
Yeah.
I would say Eric done a really good job of that.
Yeah.
All right, he's beloved by the Samoans because nothing was a problem for him. Do you trust people? Do people trust you with difficult and delicate situations? Ephesians 4:15, instead speaking the truth in love. If you are somebody that is prickly, you have no business being on a mission team. You will destroy the mission team. You will. Can you induce or persuade people to do happily some legitimate thing that they would not normally wish or do? I had to bond 12 people from different countries, different ethnicities and stuff like that. I had to make them all be happy about this and that. Every mission team member needs to be somebody that brings that unity, not disturbs that unity.
Yeah.
Can you accept opposition to your viewpoint or decision without taking offense? Missionaries always face opposition. You know, Proverbs 15:1, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. You will get lots and lots of persecution. Why? Because if I was going to take a mission team out, and I was Satan, I would attack it in that first week. Can you make and keep friends? The ministry is all about making friends. So if you're not good at building friends, if you have a reputation inside this church for being difficult, you're disqualified. You are. Because Christianity is all about being able to make friends, to win people over. Your circle of loyal friends is an index of your leadership and missionary potential. If you cannot be close friends with other powerful missionaries, you cannot be one. All right? If you are not loyal to the weak or people who become weak, no one will be loyal to you. You know, there is a bond between me and Pete, me and Eric, me and Sean. There's a bond. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody else was there. Nobody else was there. I remember telling Pete was in such challenge financially. I didn't have enough money to rescue him, but I had enough money to buy him his favourite burger. And I just went, I can buy you a beer and a burger, but I can't pay for your big debt. So it was like this last rites burger, wasn't it? There's a beer, there's a burger. For half an hour, we will enjoy ourselves. And then I don't know what will happen. Now, God always works it out, but there are bonding moments like that. Remember playing table tennis, and never play table tennis when Sean and Eric are your opposition. We used to play table tennis that whole first year. And after midweek, there'd be table tennis, and you know, maybe me and Pete were playing them, and they're like, what the heck, Sean? What the heck, Eric? Eric, what the heck? I was like, you're like two little kids. It's just like, what the heck is wrong with you two? They've changed a lot. Do you depend on praise from others to keep you going? I think what Pete said, you know, it's you and God. And He will strip you bare. Can you help steady in the face of disapproval or even temporary loss of confidence? Do you have to be believed in by man to be motivated? Or do you find your confidence in God? People say to me, bro, you don't believe me. What does that matter? I actually believe in everybody because I believe in God's power, but say I didn't believe in you, so what? When did I become God? Like, you have to believe in the power of God. Are you at ease in the presence of strangers? Do you get nervous in the presence of your superior? Are the people who you report to generally ease with you? You know, a leader and missionary, they should be sympathetic and friendly. It's funny, so often people look at leaders as a target to attack. Why? Because that's what the world does. We attack our president. I mean, honestly, I remember this time, I think Tony Abbott was in power, and there were all these things going, I hate Tony Abbott, and then the new leader came along, and within a week they go, I hate him. I'm like, give the guy a chance, he hasn't done anything yet. But it's like, I just hate authority. Your leader is not a punchbag. When he messes up or she messes up, that is the time they need you the most. You know, are you interested in people? All types, all races, no prejudice. You'll find out how racist you are on a mission team. It will expose it. Like, I've got no problem with Chinese, because I've got no Chinese friends. And you're like, dang, they do this and they do that and they do this. I'm fine with Australians, because I've got no Australian friends, but man, they just tell you you're ugly if you're ugly. I don't know if I like that. But you don't know what's in your heart, but it will come out. Are you tactful? Can you anticipate how your words will affect another person? Do you follow up after hard conversation you have and make sure people do well? Is your will strong and steady? You know, missionaries cannot waver or drift like the wind. I appreciate Brandon being brave, but the truth of it is, when he was in New Zealand, he studied the Bible with a few people and it rocked his faith. Because he didn't know his Bible well enough. James 1:5, if any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault. And it will be given to you. But when you ask, you must believe and not doubt, because the one who doubts is like a wave of sea, blown and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is double-minded and unsavour in all they do. We'll be doing first principle beginning next year. Missionaries 5 out of 5 every week. Because if you can't learn and study first principles, well, that's what you're going to do. All right? Missionaries cannot end up being led by people they study with. Really interesting in my first year. I can have a pretty strong conversation with people, but I took a load of missionaries with me, and I'd study with them, and because what happens is, like, they want to be fruitful, they're really working with people, and then bring somebody to me, and we study the Bible, and I challenge them, and there's this funny thing that happens. They then side with the unopened Christian. They go, Joe, you are too hard line. And what happens is they so desperately want someone to become a Christian, they think if I'm not as hard line, it will help that person. It doesn't work like that. Last night I had to do one of my most hardest Bible studies I think I've ever done in my life. I sat down with Ted. Now I thought it was going to go well because what a freaky thing, he walked to my house and he went, when I was at university, at City University, I lived in this house.
Wow. Oh, what?
No. He said, yeah, I lived in the front room. No. But I love Ted, been around 5 years, but I said, we've really got to talk. There's these articles and everything, and I said, I love you, Ted, and Brandon was there, and as an older man, I respected him. I said, but we looked at 2 Timothy 3 about, he came in and said, my organist hates this, and my minister hates that. I said, they're not Christians. You're not a Christian. I love you to death, but it says, do not be partners with them. And I need to call you to account. You need to obey the scriptures, or you can't come along to our church. We've loved you for 5 years. I love you. And I was dying inside. And Brandon, afterwards I said to Brandon, I was praying in my mind. He said, I was praying in my mind too. God, please help. And I said, Ted, you've got to make a decision. You've got to leave your old religion. I said, but I'm going to leave it with you. He emailed me this morning and said, I can't do it. Really, really hard. Really, really hard. But you've got to go there. Because our prayer is that by withdrawing the love, he will go, I see how unloving my church is. Can you forgive? Do you nurse resentments? Harbor ill feelings? Being a missionary is hard. So people are going to hurt you. I can't remember what it was. I keep saying to Len, me and Mason, who were on the missionary, really offended Len in the first year. We did something, I can't remember what it was, we said something, and you say something to somebody, you go, that was really bad. I feel so guilty. And he can't even remember it. I just remember the feeling of, man, we really sinned against Len. But Len's like, yeah, I can't remember what it is either. You've got to have that softness of heart. Do you have a thick skin and a bad memory? That means you can take a lot of challenges and you forget easily what people do against you. Are you really optimistic? Pessimism and being a missionary don't mix. You can't do anything without faith, Hebrews 11:6. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. Do you feel a deep passion for God's mission? Like Paul who said, this one thing I did. You need to have a single-mindedness. You are there to convert. You are not there to get a good career. You are not there to do anything. You are there to convert. That's it. You work as little as you can for as much money as you can so you can evangelize as much as you can. And that's it. Ministries need a strong focus. Do you welcome responsibility? You get to do everything as a missionary. You are the song leader, even if you don't sing well. Okay. Even Pete, I said, Pete, we're going to try to give you one song to do. I can't remember what it was like. You've at least got to be able to have one song, Pete, that you can sing. Okay. And then everybody does the welcome. Everybody puts out everybody does everything. That's not my job. It's everybody's job. I think Sean and I even had an argument about how to put the chairs out one day or something. There was this guy came in and said, bro, put the chairs out. What? Not even a hello? I feel like you don't love me, bro. I'm like, oh, get over yourself. Okay, sorry, I love you. Put the chairs out, okay? But I mean, all sorts of things. Point 2, being excellent as relationships is key. Philippians 2:3, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit, but in humility considers others better than yourself. Each of you should look not only to your own interest, but also to the interest of others. It is not about you. I feel unloved. You will. I feel like you don't care. Yep, sometimes I don't. Feel like you should give me more money. Me too, but I haven't got it. I mean, whatever it is. But soldiers don't get in the trenches and go, Sergeant, I need a cuddle to go over the top. That's not what it's like. How we handle relationships tells a lot about our potential for being in leadership and a missionary. There are some questions you must ask yourself. Do other people's failures annoy or challenge you? Because it's all about failing forward on a mission team. You've never lived in that country, you don't know how to do it, so you're going to fail a lot. So if you're like, man, I felt like you should have got it. My right-hand guy, we arrived here the second Sunday, the day before had a massive fight with his wife in Hyde Park. She did Wolverine on him. He didn't even turn up. This is my right-hand guy in the ministry. Didn't even turn up. Spent all of his money on a boat for the whole month and didn't turn up for church. And we'd be doing Band of Brothers on the series coming in. And so I then went, what am I going to do? I got everybody to my house and we watched the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan where everybody was shot on the beaches. I went, this is Satan. He's trying to kill us in the first week. We all sat down and prayed. Now he's leading a very fruitful church over in America. But you've got to understand it's going to get hard. Do you use people or cultivate them? Do you direct people or develop them? Do you criticize or encourage? Do you shun or seek out the person with a special need or problem? Do you become better around people? Do people become better around you or bitter? These tests mean little unless we act to correct our deficits and fill in the gaps of our training. The truth is, life is all about relationships. And most people walk around and say, everybody doesn't love me the way I want to be loved. And the reason you don't feel loved is because you're focused on being loved. It's impossible to make somebody feel loved. It's true, it's just impossible. Because nobody understands you. Okay? The only person that can make you feel love is actually you. It's actually you. If you have no food and you are happy with it, then you will feel loved. Does that make sense? If you go, I am happy with being passed over, then you will feel loved when you are passed over. If your expectation is God is enough, then you will feel loved. But if you look at everybody else and go, I don't feel loved, you are exactly the same as a non-Christian. The church will never meet your needs. And a mission field will definitely not meet your needs. And a leader on the mission field will definitely not meet your needs. He's just trying to keep it together, or she's just trying to keep it together themselves. You know, we need to see this as a challenge worthy of our calling. You know, you need to maintain an attitude of constant repentance. So 2 Corinthians 7:10 says, godly sorrow brings repentance that leads to salvation, leaves no regret. But worldly sorrow brings death. See what this godly sorrow has produced in what earnestness, what eagerness to clear yourself, what indignation, what alarm, what longing, what concern, what readiness to see justice done. At every point you have proved yourself to be innocent in this matter. Let's put this in a missionary term. When everybody has left you, hurt you, forgotten you, you have no money, and you're unemployed, and you're about to be kicked out of your house, are you still earnest, eager, have indignation against your own personal sin, are more alarmed by other people, you still long to be on the mission field, you're more concerned about the other missionaries, and you are ready to do whatever it takes? I appreciate what Pete said. I said, best for last. God will rake your soul. Now, he's going to do it in your lifetime anyway. The only thing you're going to do on a missionary field is speed up the process. You know, natural leadership qualities are important, but heart is the main thing. Without doubt. Being excellent relationship is key. Maybe this next year you realize that your relationship and building skills is nowhere close to where it needs to be. Well, believe me, Papua New Guinea is waiting the year after. North Korea still doesn't have a target. There'll be plenty of other mission fields you can go on. However, if you decide to really change quickly, you can also go on one this year, and that's the lesson. Come on.